Imperial Tobacco Canada. I'm here today to clarify the facts about nicotine pouches and address some of the regulatory loopholes that affect the nicotine cessation category in Canada. Let me start by saying that Zonnic is Canada's first and only nicotine pouch approved by Health Canada as a nicotine replacement therapy. Minister Holland suggesting that Imperial Tobacco Canada leverage a loophole for its license couldn't be further from the truth. Zonnic underwent a 2-year assessment process with Health Canada, demonstrating the safety and efficacy of Zonnic as a cessation aid for adults wishing to stop smoking. Introduced in October of last year, Zonnic provides a regulated legal option for smokers aiming to quit, unlike the illegal products flooding the market. However, we are at a critical juncture. Despite its proven benefits, the discourse around nicotine replacement therapies, particularly our Zonnic nicotine pouch, has been overshadowed by misconceptions and inaccuracies. The actual loophole is the absence of a legal minimum age for purchasing NRTs in Canada, allowing kids to access these products over the counter. Imperial Tobacco Canada has proactively introduced measures to ensure that Zonnic is stored behind the counter and sold only after proper age verification in retail outlets. This measure is non-negotiable with all our business partners and is part of our trade and terms conditions. Any store caught selling to underage individuals risks the removal of our products, not just Zonnic. We've gone beyond regulatory requirements, implementing stringent age verification process and ensuring that all advertising speaks directly to adult only. We have no interest in seeing youth get their hands on this product. The market for cessation product is diverse, with many employing similar strategies to appeal to adult smokers seeking alternatives to cigarette. To single out Zonnic for practices that are widespread across the industry is not only unfair, but also smacks of hypocrisy, suggesting that an anti-tobacco company bias rather than a genuine concern for public health. As of today, youth can still buy NRT products over the counter across the country with no requirement of proof of age. This disparity raises questions about the fairness and intentions behind regulatory measures, which seem less concerned with public health and more with the manufacturer's background. By limiting access to regulated nicotine alternatives like Zonnic, we risk not only undermining smoking cessation efforts, but also inadvertently bolstering illicit markets that pose a far greater risk to public health. We believe all NRTs should be subject to age restrictions, and that nicotine replacement therapies should be available in the same location where cigarettes are sold. We advocate for a new federal framework that treats all NRTs equally, ensuring they're accessible to adult smokers while preventing youth from accessing them. Thank you, and any questions?
I'm sure you heard the minister's words today. He was very forthright and passionate and said that there's no dark hole you can creep into where you won't meet him like an iron wall. What do you make of the nature of his comments?
Well, there's no dark hole. We went through a process of 2 years with his department, who approved Zonnic as a cessation product, right? We've saw it. It's not the first time that Minister Holland comes out. It's funny because we've been talking to his department, who reminded us that we haven't done anything wrong. You know, Minister Holland and other health groups have accused us of, for example, using lifestyle, using flavors, using colors. And what all these groups do not tell the public is that every NRT product and every cessation product in Canada is using colors and flavors and lifestyle to promote their product. We've offered to Health Canada whatever they feel is inappropriate, we will revise and we will change, right? We've made some proposal to them. They never came back to us. So it really feels like Minister Holland is really upset with the tobacco company. I think his background is an anti-tobacco lobbyist. And he said in his press conference today that he's all for innovation, but what he's really saying is he wants innovation in the NRT space, but he doesn't want it coming from a tobacco company, which is very different, right? So we're going to continue. We believe in Zonnic. We have thousands of consumers, adult consumers, that are telling us that it has helped them quit smoking. We know that it works. Otherwise, we would not have the Health Canada license. And we're not looking at any dark holes. And we want to meet Mr. Holland. I mean, he says he said publicly, I'm going to fine you. He doesn't need to look very far. Like, we want to meet with him, but he never responds to our calls. So more than happy to sit down with Mr. Holland, have that discussion, and make any changes that he believes is, you know, whatever he feels is inaccurate or inappropriate. But he also needs to look at what's happening in the NRT space. Youth access is a good example. Right now, if you're underage, you're allowed to buy an NRT product in Canada. I mean, you can walk in a convenience store or any store in a pharmacy, you can buy nicotine gum. Like, our product is the only product right now that is behind the counter in this country.
Do you see a difference between the nicotine pouch and nicotine gum?
I think there's a difference in the way you use it, but both products have been licensed for the same objective, which is to help adults quit smoking, right? So what we know is that, and there was a research recently that came out in Canada actually, that a lot of the adult consumers said that they don't really use, they've tried some of the cessation products in the market, it wasn't really helpful, it didn't help them quit smoking. We know because of the way that the nicotine pouch delivers nicotine, the way you use it, it is a positive way to help people quit smoking. So I think that's the difference, but both of them are cessation products. You know, Mr. Holland alluded to the notion that the way that, you know, Zonnic has been communicated has not been as a cessation product. That's inaccurate. The only way you're allowed to talk about Zonnic in Canada or any NRT is you have to demonstrate and say that it is a cessation product. So there's a lot of misconception. It's very difficult, right? We're a tobacco company. He's the Minister of Health. Most of what he said we agree with. Like, he said he wants the product behind the counter. We're already behind the counter since we've launched in this country. Like, every place you're going to see Zonnic is behind the counter and age verified. That is self-regulated, right? He wants to talk about flavors. We're open to talking about flavors. But what we believe is, let's have that discussion for the entire NRT category. You know, the nomenclature, he was talking about some of the name we use. I can show you, and I don't know if you, for the screen there, like, you know, the colors, the namings, it's very similar for all the products that are in the market. So that's why, you know, unfortunately, Minister Holland's going after us because our name is Imperial Tobacco. But at the core of all of this is there are adults, smokers in Canada, that have told us that this product helps them quit. And it would be unfortunate to, you know, have a knee-jerk reaction just because our name is Imperial Tobacco.
And if the minister decided to limit the number of flavors to menthol only, for example, is that something you would oppose?
We certainly don't think it's the right thing. Like, there's plenty of evidence to demonstrate that the adults that want to quit smoking, a lot of them want to use a flavor other than tobacco, mint, or menthol, right? So the same way that, you know, flavors are used in other NRT products. So obviously we would comply, but I think there's strong evidence to show that's probably not the right thing to do. One of the challenges, and we've shared this with the department and Minister Holland himself, there are plenty of nicotine pouches available in this market illegally, much before we were in the market. And this is, again, why wasn't nicotine pouches illegally sold across Canada a concern for Minister Holland before we were in the market, right? So clearly, you know, his reaction is based on Imperial Tobacco Canada. I mean, nobody's going to argue with the health minister standing up and saying, well, we're going to protect Canadian youth and we're going to go after the tobacco companies and stay away from our kids. Like, we all want that. Like, nobody, I have 2 children. I don't want my kids to use nicotine products, right? But the point is, these products were available illegally. Why wasn't that a concern at the time? Now that we respect every regulation in the book, all of a sudden, we're the bad guys and it's become a big problem. So that's where a little bit it's hard to follow where the minister is going at. But again, you know, when you look at the background, you know, working for Heart and Stroke, lobbying against tobacco companies all his life, you can see where this is going. The big losers in all this are the Canadian adults that smoke. You know, if we prevent them to have access to this product, well, I think we're just reducing their ability to quit because we know that that's a product that helps people quit smoking.
What about the idea of moving this behind counters in pharmacies as opposed to gas stations and convenience stores?
The only challenge with that is a couple of things. So some of the health groups have stated publicly that, you know, we're the only one and the only product in convenience stores. That's inaccurate. Again, a lot of misinformation. Every store that we've entered, there was already a cessation product in the store. The problem with removing only the pharmacy, we believe that pharmacy is important, right? But the problem with that is we do believe that it's important for an adult where they buy their cigarettes on a day in, day out to have access to these products in that store. That's probably where they're going to make the first move to say, oh, you know what, today I'm going to try a cessation product, right? So that's the downside of taking the product out of convenience store where people buy their cigarettes and putting it at pharmacies only. Once the people have decided to quit and use the product, maybe they'll go to another channel to buy it. But that day that they make that decision, if the product is not there, they might not try it, right? And again, behind the counter is not an issue. Like, we've self-imposed that already. So one of the things that the minister didn't talk about is he never mentioned today that the NRT space should be for adults only. Like, think about it. Like I said earlier, kids can still go in stores now and buy, you know, nicotine gums or nicotine lozenges or nicotine whatever. And that's probably not a good thing. So that's the real loophole in what's happening in the NRT space today. And probably because Imperial Tobacco went into that space, the minister is starting to look into it, and now he's realizing that there are some loopholes, but it's certainly not the way that we marketed our product or the way that we're selling the product. We've been accused of using TikTok. It's inaccurate. We've never used TikTok, but others do, right? Lifestyle is used by all the other companies. So a lot of stuff is put on Imperial Tobacco Canada today, probably amplified by the minister's background, but at the core of all of this is there's a cessation product that works, and adults are using it to stop smoking.
This is a common tension between cessation products and the risk of new users who don't use, tobacco coming on board. But the reality is there are kids who are using Zonnic and Zyn and other nicotine pouches. And so what steps are you taking beyond the ones you already have, or what are you considering to try to prevent that from happening?
Yeah. So I can go on record today. If kids are using nicotine pouches in Canada, they're not using Zonnic. Zonnic, like I told you, is age verified. If a store sells Zonnic product and it's not age verified and we're made aware of it, we remove the product immediately. Not only the Zonnic product, our vaping product and our cigarette product. I can tell you that a convenience store that doesn't have any nicotine product, he won't survive very long, okay? So that is super important. We have measures in place. So lifestyle is a good example. We make sure that any model in our advertisement looks 25 and above, okay? Right now, we're not using any models because we had discussions with Health Canada. We voluntarily stopped doing that while others continue to do that. Our online sales is triple age verification. You have to demonstrate you're 18 when you get on, or 19 when you get on the site. If you purchase, you need concrete evidence that you're an adult and at point of delivery, which is not the case for everybody. So there's already a lot of steps that are being used that we've shared with Health Canada. When we applied for this license, Health Canada, before saying yes, they've asked us our mitigation plan to make sure that kids don't have access to our product. We've shared that with them. We've shared our pack with them. Like, to go after us today, to say we've leveraged a loophole, I don't know what that is. I mean, we've shared everything with them. So again, we come with a history. It's Imperial Tobacco Canada. Mr. Holland doesn't like that. He likes the innovation concept, as long as innovation doesn't come from a tobacco company. He doesn't like the notion that we can actually be part of the solution here, right? But, the government of Canada said they want to reduce smoking incidents below 5% by 2035. Our projections suggest they're not going to achieve that. They're not. So if we're really serious about reducing smoking, well, let's find measures to keep the products out of the hands of kids, but making them available to adult smokers that want to quit smoking. We know that the vast majority of smokers today want to quit smoking, and a lot of them had tried cessation products in the market and failed. So if I'm the health minister, I'm obviously open to innovation. It doesn't matter who's this coming from.
I think it's fair that he's dubious of the idea that a tobacco company is trying to sell both the disease and the cure.
No, if I'm honest with you. Because if that's the case, then McDonald's shouldn't be selling cigarettes, right? And car companies shouldn't be selling electric cars. And there's so many examples of that. Like, I don't agree with that. Now, that he wants to have a discussion with us and he wants to make sure that, that we respect regulation, all that, we're more than happy to have that dialogue. I find it very entertaining, to be honest, to see the health minister go in front of the camera and tell us that he's going to find us, right? But over and above that entertainment, like, at the end of the day, we're talking about the health of Canadians, right? I've said all along, and I've been doing this for a long time, if the government of Canada puts cigarettes illegal tomorrow, we'll comply with that. but that means that we need to accept that 100% of the market will go illegal, right? Minister Holland said prohibition doesn't work. I didn't say that. He knows that that doesn't work. He also recognizes that nicotine pouches is a good tool to help people quit smoking. Otherwise, he would have banned it, right? So everybody agrees, but I think some people are just not capable of, seeing beyond the name of the company. And it's the same thing with the Canadian Cancer Society and their spokesperson, Rob Cunningham. And there's a handful of these groups who have been fighting tobacco all their lives. And the notion of, these companies can actually be part of the solution, they just cannot pass that point. And unfortunately, again, I think adult smokers are going to pay the price for this.
How much responsibility do you think that the minister has for this situation, given that it was his department that approved the pouch in the first place for all ages?
But there's no situation. My point is, we went through a 2-year approval process. We were asked to demonstrate the efficacy and the safety of Zonnic as a cessation product, and we've done it. Now, does the minister have a responsibility that NRT products are being promoted with lifestyle on social media, with flavors? Probably. But if he believes that that is not appropriate, he has the power to regulate that. But there's no issue with Zonnic and with nicotine pouches being in the market. It is a proven cessation product.
My colleague is wondering if you could provide comment to the minister's remarks in French.
Sure. Right off the bat like that? Yeah. With no question. OK. Oui, en fait, Zonnic est la seule poche de nicotine qui a été approuvée par Santé Canada. On a passé à travers un processus d'approbation de 2 ans. C'est le seul produit qui a été approuvé par Santé Canada. Bien qu'il y a plusieurs poches de nicotine qui se retrouvent sur le marché depuis bien avant Zonnic illégalement. C'est de l'information qu'on a partagée avec le département du ministre. Et aujourd'hui, de voir que le ministre décide de partir après Imperial Tobacco ou après Zonnic sur la base que on essaye de rendre une nouvelle génération accro à la nicotine, c'est faux. Le produit, il est vendu exactement comme la licence nous le demande. Il est vendu en tant que produit de cessation. Il y a, je cherche le bon mot, là, un loophole là, que le ministre fait allusion. Mais le problème en ce moment, c'est que la catégorie de cessation au Canada n'exige pas qu'une personne doit avoir 18 ans pour acheter un produit de cessation. Et ça, c'est un des gros problèmes qu'on a en ce moment dans le marché. Cela dit, Imperial Tobacco Canada, quand on a lancé Zonnic au mois d'octobre de l'année dernière, on a mis le produit derrière le comptoir. Donc, on s'est auto-réglementé. Et tous nos détaillants qui vendent Zonnic doivent demander une preuve d'âge aux gens qui vont l'acheter. Donc, il n'y a aucun jeune aujourd'hui qui peut se procurer Zonnic dans le marché au Canada de manière légale. Donc, le ministre faisait allusion au fait que les jeunes se procurent et utilisent des produits, des poches de nicotine. Bien, moi, ce que je peux le rassurer, lui, c'est que ces produits-là, ce n'est pas les produits Zonnic. Et nous, on est prêt à travailler avec lui et son département pour s'assurer que les jeunes n'aient pas accès à des produits de nicotine, que ce soit des poches de nicotine, des produits de vapotage, des cigarettes ou n'importe quel autre produit, parce que ces produits-là sont faits pour les adultes. Donc, on est prêt à travailler avec lui et son département. On a eu des bonnes discussions avec le département et avec Santé Canada. Malheureusement, je pense qu'ils ont les mains attachées parce que dernièrement, ils ne nous répondent plus. On a mis des solutions devant eux. On attend des réponses. On a écrit au ministre qui, clairement, ne nous répond pas. Mais nous, on est prêt à travailler. On continue à penser qu'on peut faire partie de la solution pour aider à réduire le taux de tabagisme au Canada.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We'll now go online with Marina. Go ahead.
Hi there, thanks for taking our questions. Marina von Stackelberg from CBC News. Since health groups raised concerns about Zonnic, have you made any changes in terms of how you sell or advertise the product?
Totally. Like I said, we've had discussions with Health Canada. I want to make it clear, though. We did, and we told since day one to Health Canada, we believe in this product as a cessation product, and we're willing to collaborate. So we had already put the product behind the counter and age verified in every location. We have changed all of our advertisement, despite the fact that everybody was using lifestyles and models in their advertisement. Our advertisement right now is only focused on the product itself. And we've limited some of the advertisement strategy that we had, in some places that we said we're not going to do that. So we really took a moderate approach to what we were doing, or what we planned on doing. We've made other recommendations to Health Canada. They asked us, for example, to put the 18 plus more prominent on the pack and the advertisement. We did that right away, so that has been done. They asked us is there a possibility maybe to use less colors? We said, obviously, no problem. If you believe that, so we've proposed to them a white pack. We never heard back from them. But again, we want to be treated like any other NRT product in this category. And what seems to come out is we're always being singled out. Like, it's unfortunate. I don't think you can see the advertisement that's on the screen here. We've been accused of using TikTok. We've never been on TikTok. Some of our competitors are using social media posts with young ladies that, they're probably 18, but they look between very, very young. And, they don't have the product in their hands. And why is that not a problem? Only because their name is not Imperial Tobacco Canada. So that's the frustration we're having. We're playing by the rules. We went through the process. We've made changes. We want to collaborate. But then every now and then the minister comes out and says that he's going to fine us when we've been trying to talk to him for weeks and months now. So, but to answer your question, we have done.
So, sorry, I appreciate your concerns with the language that's being used, and those are things that we've heard from your group before. But you mentioned you talked about changing the packaging to be white, but that you didn't hear back from Health Canada. Can you help us understand, would you be able to make these changes on your own, or do you need approval from Health Canada? I'm just wondering what you have done so far, and if there is an issue with needing approval to make those changes that you're suggesting.
Well, you got to understand that it's not a switch you turn on and off, right? So we're willing to make changes to the pack. We're willing to look at the nomenclature. We've said all along, we're willing to collaborate with the minister's office, with the department, and the Health Canada. The only thing is, if the department's going to come with new regulations in 1, 2, or 3 months, whenever that is, it's not like we can change the pack today and then in 3 weeks later. We had made some changes to the pack and the advertisement in terms of 18 plus. We did that right away. But then a couple of months later, they came back and said, we don't like it. Can you change it again? All these things, they cost money and they take time. So we've said, whatever you guys want to talk about, we're willing to work with you, collaborate, but we need to make sure that whatever we make as a change, you're not going to change in a couple of weeks. Now, if I'm honest with you, looking at the way that the minister is reacting to Imperial Tobacco Canada, it looks like anything we're going to do, he's not going to be satisfied with. So at one point, you also have to understand on our end, so we're going to change, but it needs to be clear that, first of all, it should impact every NRT product and company in this country, and that we're not going to change in 2-3 weeks, right?
Forgive me, we've spoken to you a number of times as this story has developed over the last few months. I just wanted to ask you, we've heard your thoughts on things, we've heard Minister Holland's thoughts on things, but I'm just wondering, is there something about that Minister Holland is saying today about the action he's talking about right now that is a concern for you, that you're opposed to?
Well, he referred to 3 things today. The first one is, I think he's been, based on what I could understand, and I'll speculate, but he can clarify if you ask him, but it looks like he reached out to the provinces. We knew that he'd done that, for BC to come out and target nicotine pouch, and for Minister Holland to come out and congratulate BC. This demonstrated that there has been collaboration. So I think he's been talking to the province and asking them to put this behind the counter. He didn't allude to pharmacies only, but that's probably what he's advocating for. To be honest, I've talked about this earlier, behind the counter, we've already done. We believe that should be an industry benchmark. Age verification, adult only, and behind the counter, that should be everybody in Canada. If it goes to pharmacies only, we'll comply. We don't have a problem with that. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. We believe it's important for these products to be where adults buy their cigarettes. It doesn't make sense when you think about it that cigarettes are going to be available everywhere in Canada, but the tool to help you quit smoking is going to be only in a fraction of those locations, right? When you think about it, it doesn't make sense. So that's why we believe that convenience stores and gas station is important. If the minister doesn't think that, well, we're going to comply. On the other hand, like, he needs to do something about all these illegals products that are available left and right, either on websites or in, in locations across Canada. We've provided them with that list, and nobody seems to care about the fact that, illegal products are being sold in Canada. So that's the first one. The second one, he talked about flavors. I've mentioned it. I think the biggest losers, if he goes after flavors, is going to be the adult smokers. We know that smokers want a taste, and I think one of the journalists asked him, and I think he recognized that, if you only have one flavor or two, maybe some people will go back to smoking, which is not good. And the third one he talked about was marketing approval. Like, we're already working with Health Canada, right? So we don't have any issues with that. I'm going to go on record again. We're aligned with most of what the minister said today. Like, the measures that he wants to take, we're fully aligned with him. The only thing we're asking is that he needs to stop singling out Imperial Tobacco Canada. We were approved by his department. We went through the process, and we're selling this product like any other NRT product in Canada today.
Okay. If there's no more questions, this will conclude the press conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.